Seriously? If you're betting horses and not watching these shows, you gotta be freaking crazy. Capiche?
You're watching Past the Wire TV.
Knowledge. It isn't free. You gotta pay attention.
And ladies and gentlemen, we direct your attention to the winner's circle for a very special presentation. Representatives from Handicapping for Horses, along with professional handicapper Jonathan Stetton, are proud to support the work of the Thoroughbred Aftercare Alliance and Old Friends. Accepting the check for the inaugural Handicapping for Horses event this past summer at Saratoga are representatives from the Thoroughbred Aftercare Alliance and Old Friends. Gulfstream Park welcomes Michael Blowen, Jonathan Stetton, Kelly Stovey, Jim Rhodes here this afternoon. Since 2012, the TAA has awarded more than $17.2 million to accredited organizations. Handicapping for Horses looks to make their Saratoga Springs event larger and raise money for Thoroughbreds Aftercare year after year. Once again, thank you to Handicapping for Horses, Jonathan Stetton, and welcome to Old Friends and our friends at the TAA. The Rainbow Six and race number 5 up next.
Exclusively at PastTheWire.com, the Geo full card precise order handicap. It's my fully written deep dive into a selected Saturday big day of thoroughbred racing. I begin my full card handicap at the earliest of moments, well in advance to the posted morning lines. Don't need them. I'm always focused, and I focus to the absolute finish, never distracted. Without trouble and a clean break, it's a good trip, and is the most likely winner. Top choice, Simply Joking. I provide an extensive level of film study on race review and workouts, and I always deep dive into the connections, the pedigree, and overall bloodlines, leaving no stones unturned. This is my passion. An intense, thorough breakdown of the past performance numbers and chart details is assured. This is your vehicle to be very informed, so you can make better, more informed window decisions for yourself on a big race Saturday throughout a full card. Saturdays all year round at PastTheWire.com. Every full card presents an opportunity to have fun and beat the game. If you believe in my process, you will be more successful. You can bet on it. We are in a challenge against others. Inevitably, with better window decisions, you too will be more successful.
And they're off in the Kentucky Derby.
You're watching Past the Wire TV, the biggest races at the best tracks. From the Kentucky Derby to the Breeders' Cup. The best horse racing coverage is right here on Past the Wire TV.
in motion, reshaping the sport's greatest tradition, channeling the legends of his line and surpassing them. 4 of the last 6 Derby winners carry his genes. A Golden Son, a Horse of the Year. Another chapter written beneath those iconic spires. Derby dreams fulfilled for the titans of our industry. From authentic to sovereignty, a legacy both real and supreme. Into mischief.
Hi everybody, Dan Oman here with some exciting news. DRF Formulator, the gold standard in past performance information, is now free, exclusively on DRF Bets. Join DRF Bets with the promo code WINNING, get a $250 first deposit match bonus, a $10 free bet, and free Formulator already uploaded to your account. Access Formulator's premium features, including sortable trainer stats, race replays, personalized trip notes, and lots more. Free Formulator, exclusively on DRF Bets.
Often imitated, never duplicated. Ciao tutti. Ciao Geo. It's
What's up, everybody? Ciao, ciao.
It's one of the biggest and best and most exciting days of the Saratoga meet, Whitney Day at the spa with an absolute stellar card.
I agree. What do I always tell you, John? Saratoga is identified by many things, but obviously the 2 biggest days are Whitney Day and Travis Day, and there's obviously no comparison. There's a few others, but none like these 2 days.
Yeah, tough to argue with that. You know, I will say this because I think it's important to mention. We're going to deep dive the Whitney, and for those of you so inclined, Geo also has one of his deep dive full card handicaps up on Past the Wire, where he goes into every race like we all know nobody but Geo does. So anybody that's interested in that, you can go check that out on pastthewire.com. It's right on the homepage, and get Geo's thoughts for the entire card. But we're going to do the Whitney here. The other thing is, I am definitely an outspoken person about not liking Saratoga extending the meet. And I think we're taping this on Wednesday. The card today is not what I would call a typical Saratoga card. So in my opinion, when you extend the meet does suffer and the quality of racing suffers on days like this. Now, what kind of makes up for that is days like Saturday, because they cram all those stakes and great races and the maiden races into those Saturdays. So they wind up with outstanding cards on, like you said, Whitney and Travers Day, a couple of other days. But I go back where I remember when the test, that was the stake of the day. It was the only stake race on the card on that particular day. It was a huge race, but that's when the meet was 4 weeks, 24 Correct. Racing days.
John,
I prefer that system.
As was the 4-star Dave. It was its own day. Yeah.
Right. You know, well, I go back when the 4-star Dave wasn't even a race. I was going up there.
Yeah.
He wasn't even born when I was going up there. So the Bernard Baruch was one of the first big turf races and whatnot. But then again, I'm old, so that's that. But I prefer that shorter boutique type of meet with the quality every day, as opposed to just loading up these big days. But the flip side is you get these big days and they're like unbelievable cards. So I see it, I get it. This is a great card Saturday. It's the kind of card I love to attack, and I believe you do as well. And we got the Whitney to dissect here, which I think came up, a really, really great race. And when you look at what Nisos did in the San Diego last Saturday.
Absolutely,
okay? Yeah. I thought he was extremely impressive. He was in trouble all the way on the rail, kind of pinned in, got out, and just drew off. I thought he did a couple of things with that win, and I'm curious if you saw it the same way. But I thought he answered clearly the 2-turn question.
I was just going to say that. Go ahead.
He answered clearly the 1 1/8 question. And I think he was impressive enough. And I know you never know until they do it. I get that. But I think he answered the 1 1/4 question as well. So to me, he looks like, if he stays on track, a Breeders' Cup Classic contender. And we know he likes Del Mar. He just won over Del Mar. the Breeders' Cup this year is at Del Mar. We've got 2 great 3-year-olds this year. You've got photography and journalism. Both are outstanding. Baeza is no slouch, but I don't think he's as good as either one of them. So if those 2 stay healthy and stay on track, you've got 2 3-year-olds, you've got Nisos, and you've got some of these horses, Fierceness, Sierra Leone, coming at it as
monsters in this race, correct?
Right. You've got the potential for one of the better Breeders' Cup classics that I can remember.
It could be an all-time best. It really can, at least on paper and on-track performance. It's going to be a thrill. It really will be.
And, I was thinking about something the other day. Nisos is interesting because if things go a little south with him, or, Bob has a second thought or two about him, he can cut back to the mile or the sprint and be a contender. He kind of reminds me, I don't think he's accomplished what this horse has yet, but I remember there was one year Wise Dan would have been a contender in like 4 different Breeders' Cup races: the mile, the classic, the sprint, the turf. I mean, he could have ran in like, the mile turf. He could have ran in like 4 races and been a contender.
The one thing that's for certain, Nisos is a imposing horse, fast, confident, aggressive. He's going to have the right rider on him. Yeah, he's got a world of potential. Do I think he's as good?
We don't know who he's going to have on him. I say he'll have the right rider on him.
Yeah, exactly.
Pratt might have a difficult decision if Sierra Leone is going.
But if it's not Pratt, of course, Pratt's going to be with the Sierra Leone. It's going to be somebody the likes of JJ Hernandez, somebody on the upper echelon who recognizes and races well, rides well at Del Mar on the West Coast.
All right. Are we ready?
I'm ready to roll, man. I'm excited to talk about this race.
All right. Well, you want to lead off with Skippy Longstocking? He's a horse I know you have liked him many times.
First thing, I think we should add 15 or 20 seconds each on the horse that's on the rail, that's Will Scratch. And I thought it was very, not comical, but it was sort of funny to see that he was entered, because I knew all along, once I saw that, no way Mike Rapoli was going to run that horse, who's, to me, one of the better horses in training, against his stablemate Fierceness. So we put that to rest.
Right. He's going to scratch, and I think, the tell was naming, Gomez on him, but he's not going to run. So I don't know what there's to say. I agree. He's one of the better horses in training right now, but he's not running Saturday as far as I know.
He's out. He's out. Absolutely. So we both handicapped the race knowing that he won't be part of it. All right. So I'm going to lead off with Skippy Longstocking. And guys, you guys who watch this show, how many times have you heard Mr. Setti talk about this horse? We all should know him very, very well. I've been fortunate to make a lot of money on this horse. Really not so much in grade 1s, but in grade 2s and grade 3s, he's been very formidable, especially at this distance. So in this field, I think it's very interesting that Jose Ortiz is back up on him. And if you remember, throughout 2024, Jose had some great runs on the horse. Safi Joseph has done a great job with the horse. He is 4 for 4 on the board in 25. He's a big-time earner, lifetime. Let's see if I just do some quick math. 11 for 15 in the money at the distance. I always call him a 9 furlong mile and 8 specialist because 2 reasons. A, he's got sensational tactical ability. He's got speed and he's got lasting ability. He normally finishes races well. But in this race, against this field, I just don't think he has enough to beat the likes of several in the race. But I really feel he's good enough to last for 3rd or 4th and hit the board again.
I agree with everything you said about him. I would kind of characterize it a little differently and say he's very solid. He's pretty good, but I don't think he is, top level And I think this is a, grade one, top level kind of race with the best older horses in the country. Can he beat the best on the right day, at the right track, under the right circumstances? I would say maybe. I wouldn't say no shot. He couldn't, but I don't think that setup is this Saturday in the Whitney. I think, he's likely part of the pace or pressing the pace. And I don't think the winner of this race is going to be on the lead, to tell you the truth, or close to the lead. I think the winner is going to come from off the pace, the way that I see it. So I don't like him here against these kind of horses. Moving right along. We ready?
Yeah, Highland Falls. Let's go.
Highland Falls is he's always showed a lot of promise. Always looked like he was going to be really, really good. Did win the Jockey Club Gold Cup over the racetrack last year. Does show up with good races, kind of like Skippy. He's a little versatile. He can go to the lead. He can sit off the pace. I think if an up and comer or fresh face is going to upset this field, he might be the one. I don't think it's going to happen. But Skippy would surprise me a lot. He would surprise me only very, very, very little. He's not where I land. I'm not going to bet him. But again, if he did win, I would not be shocked. One of my knocks is I know he's one off Lasix, but I don't like him coming off Lasix for this race particularly. He had a nice confidence builder. I think he's coming in the right way. I love Saez getting on him. I don't mind Saez for Pratt at all. I don't think there's any major difference there, believe it or not. A lot of people may disagree. Some may not, whatever, to each their own. But again, slight surprise, not going to land on him, but definitely not a shock.
Okay, cool, John. Good stuff. Some similar thoughts, but a couple things that are new. I did notice and appreciate that Saez is back on him. Of course, Saez rode this guy at the Breeders' Cup in last November, and it wasn't his day. So Pratt's not available, and Saez is back. I do agree. The Jockey Club Gold Cup, if you watch that race over this track, that was a flawless performance. He was flat out the aggressor, and he was dominant. And he won that race decisively with his best buyer number and probably his best thoroughbred number. Almost, even though I don't know the exact number, I would guess that he ran close to a 0 that day. That's how good he was with the Jockey Club Gold Cup. It's a nice racehorse. I always trust Brad Cox regarding conditioning. I do agree that the last race was a good tune-up. Odds on, he could have walked backwards and beat that field. It was a field that's beneath him, but it was a good tune-up. However, in this race, I do call him the race wild card because he's not as good as 3 others in this race, especially the 2 big ones, and you guys should know who they are. He's not in their class. So I would never take him to defeat both of those. But if for whatever reason, either of those 2 have a trouble trip or something goes drastically wrong, this horse is a wild card and he deserves that type of respect. And where I got him in my handicap is underneath those 2 to fill the triple or the superfecta because he's talented.
One thing I think we should say, and for those of you that have been watching Geo and I and even Big Race Jim do these shows for years, you just kind of know the differences in how we handicap. Geo handicaps in a way where when he does these shows, he likes who he likes going to finish first, who he likes going to finish second, who he likes going to finish third, who he likes going to finish fourth. And most of you know that. And he does his deep dives that way as well. He kind of ranks every horse in the race where he thinks is their probable, most likely spot to finish. I don't look at these races and discuss them that way. I tell you who I think is going to win and who I think is not going to win. So it's just a little bit of a different take, and hopefully, a lot of you can appreciate both of the styles and take what it is.
And
Let me lead with Mama's Gold because I'm going to be real quick.
Okay. By the way, I do appreciate what you just said, but after I do a race, especially a grade 1, grade 2, grade 3, I am decisive as to who I will use on the win end, whether it's a single or two. In this race, I'm only using 2 on the win end. I will say that beforehand. Go ahead.
Mama's Gold. Here's what I'm going to say about Mama's Gold. I've been going up to Saratoga since I was a little kid. Okay, little kid with my mom and dad, staying the whole meet up there. My dad was a mutual clerk. You all know that. I ain't going to get into any of that. Mama's Gold. Mama's Gold is the type of horse that if I was up there Saturday and going back to when I first went up there when I was 1 year old, Mama's Gold wins. I look at whoever I'm with and say, let's go to dinner, and we walk right out of the race.
That's a good one. Yeah.
That's all I got. Mama's Gold wins. We're going out to dinner. That's it.
Yeah. Listen, out of respect for the connections, and they entered him into Whitney, I will say one positive thing about him. It's a speedy guy, one for the New York bred clan. He is 7 for 8 in exactas at the distance, but
he's no Fio Rito.
Yeah, correct. But clearly, he's in way deeper waters. He doesn't belong with this field, but he's a nice New York bred colt that is serviceable and game at the distance with the right class.
Okay, I could live with that.
Okay.
You want to take Sierra Leone?
Yeah, I'll start with Sierra Leone so we stay in sequence. Wow, what hasn't been said about this guy? He's one of the 2 who I feel obviously is good enough to win this race on his best day for certain. But I look at him as like an ultimate warrior. He always comes and runs the same type of race, and he's gotten better with age, in my opinion, because early on in his career as a juvenile, he had those lug-ins and those things that you said he's got to snap out of. But he's unbelievably well-built, well-bred. He's never been off the board. And you can make a strong argument, an obvious argument, that as a juvenile, he could have won the Remsen. And in the Kentucky Derby, he was a nose-off for that. So those 2 races that he got beat by this much, tack that onto his resume. Consistent, reliable, game, can take dirt. I love everything about him. And to me, it's him and Fierceness who are clearly a decisive class advantage over everybody else, numbers-wise, whether you read Buyer, Thoroughbred. If he gets the right trip and the right pace in front of him, he's going to come hard again. I can't see him off the board. I love the exacta. It may be a little form-fitting, but I'm not going to reach in a race like this. Sierra Leone is a massive win candidate, and the only horse, in my opinion, that could beat him would be Fierceness.
I don't have a lot to add. I agree with all of that, but I think that's a more general assessment. So what I look at is, and we got to remember there were 2 races I think last year, and they might have been the 2 Saratoga races, the Jim Dandy and the Travers, or maybe the Belmont and the Jim. 2 of the 3 Saratoga races last year. I think we discussed that he would never have a better setup as far as all the speed that was in front of him. And he didn't get it done there, but then just when you thought, well, maybe he just always comes too late. Maybe the setups aren't gonna hurt him. He proved all of that wrong in the Breeders' Cup Classic with a decisive off the pace run at the speed. All right. I happen to think, and this is where you kind of get into the nuts and bolts of it, I think. I happen to think that there will be pace on Saturday. I think there's enough pace to set him up. I also think that when I watched the replay of the Stephen Foster, he screamed out to me that, you know what, with the right trip, I could have handled Mindframe easy with the right pace. Mindframe got the jump on him, got a perfect trip. He kind of kicked in late. Looks like he's kind of really coming back to his best race. I've said this about Chad Brown many, many, many times. When Chad Brown has a good horse and he doesn't back off after a loss, like give him a rest or kind of, move him into a softer company. When he kind of presses on after a loss, it usually tells me that they're going to run big. They almost always run big. So I'm going to land on Sierra Leone here. I think there's enough pace to set him up. I wish it was 1.25 miles, because if it was, I would tell you I love him.
I was just going to say that. The distance is the only thing.
But it's 1.8 miles. So it is what it is. But it's a full trip around Saratoga, 1.8 miles. I think there's enough pace to set him up. I love the last race as kind of a setup prep race for this. I know he's never won at Saratoga, and Fierceness loves Saratoga, but he has run well there, 3 times, a second and 2/3. And that's when he still was messing with the bit and whatnot and trying to get him to run straight. And now he seems to run, much more focused as he's gotten older. And I think Sierra Leone says, you know what? Here I come, and gets them all late.
John, to just add to the point, if it was 1.25 miles in this spot, I would love Sierra Leone. I would. But the fact that it's 9 furlongs, and Fierceness has had, and we're going to get to Fierceness. I just want to add one more point here. And Fierceness is not only wonderful at Saratoga, but at 9 furlongs, with him being up with Johnny V, where I feel he will be, we'll get to that when we get to Fierceness. I just think the fact that Fierceness has been so dead game, it's going to be close with Sierra Leone charging late in the race. And a lot is in Pratt's hands. He's got to time this perfectly. But let's move forward. Good, nice piece on Sierra Leone. I think we both covered it really well.
Disarm. Who's up? You or me? I think you or
I led with Sierra Leone, so now you lead with Disarm.
Disarm is going to be kind of a forgotten, overlooked horse in this race. But I don't know that he should be overlooked that fast. I mean, he's a long shot that I think has a puncher's chance in here, because I do think that the winner's going to come from off the pace. Disarm's going to be coming from off the pace. So if I'm wrong about Sierra Leone, or he doesn't fire, or it's not his day, then logically the other closer is Disarm, who's won at Saratoga, who's ran well against top company, who's had some troubled trips in his career going back to the Kentucky Derby, and never really put it all together, never delivered on the potential that he has. But he is a gun runner. He is 5. They are keeping him running. It is Steve Asmussen. Joel Rosario is riding very well at Saratoga. He was in a kind of a funk for a while, but now he's riding good again. And a good Joel on a closer, we know, is good. Am I going to use him? Probably not. I'm probably going to single and bet Sierra Leone. But again, like Highland Falls, Disarm would surprise me a little bit, but would not shock me. And if he's long enough, I mean, if he's in like the 20-1 range, which I don't know, I'm not going to project, the odds. But if he is somewhere like that, I might throw him on a ticket.
Okay, listen, interesting. I have a similar assessment on him, because most of you guys know he was my Kentucky Derby horse that I felt with a better trip, he could have threatened to win that Kentucky Derby, but he stopped behind Kingsbarn. He was trapped. But anyway,
and it's not the only time he's gotten into trouble like that.
Correct.
A couple of other races that he could have been
yes, this is a talented horse who has been underappreciated because of his lack of success. But I will tell you one thing. In the 23 Travis, 2 years ago to date now, or next month, when Arcangelo beat him, I had Disarm that day, double-digit odds. And if he didn't get squeezed like he was on the rail, I felt like he would have been, the way he was coming, he could have been a threat at the wire to win that Travis. But it's forgotten because, Arcangelo won for Jenner and Tanucci, and history was made. But, he did run in the Whitney last year. I thought he'd show a little more. He did not. He hit the board, but sort of lackluster. He's run with a lot of good horses. I also say it wouldn't blow my mind, shock me, but if he somehow pulled off a miracle. But I do expect him to race well here. Do you know he's cross-entered in a race Friday in a weak field? I know they're going to race him here. I'd be shocked if they scratched him here and they ran him on Friday. Asmussen, Rosario, I'm going to use him in my superfectas.
Okay. White Abario.
All right. I'll lead with White Abario.
Sure.
Let's do it. All right. Irad. And by the way, folks, how the hell was Irad riding at Saratoga? I love Flavian Pratt, and so much was said before the meet. And we know how good Jose Ortiz was riding over at Churchill and everywhere he's been. But the way Irad is riding right now with conviction, he just wants to steal the show. He's winning on some horses that, in my opinion, had no business winning. But with that said, I'm not on White Abario here. I just had to mention and pay some respect to Irad. White Abario is a talented horse. He's run some monster races on this circuit in grade ones. John, you nailed him a couple of years ago in the Whitney at a big number, right? It was the Whitney, right? Or the Trav, the Whitney. But I always said White Abario is a horse for course at Gulfstream Park. He's good at the distance, and he's wonderful at Gulfstream Park. And he's won at Saratoga, fine. But recently, and I'm not just discounting his last race, because he ran a big race at the Pegasus. Remember, that is where he beat Locked and Skippy over at Gulfstream Park. In this field, with the likes of Sierra Leone and Fierceness, I just don't think he's as good as either one of those. And I think Highland Falls overall has a more gutty, well-rounded, well-traveled talent than him. So White Abario is one I'm fading. I'm not using him. If he beats me, he beats me.
I agree. I think he's a little bit vulnerable here. I'm not going to use him. He is a hell of an accomplished racehorse. He's a nice horse. I mean, look at his record. Was he 10 for 22? He's a Breeders' Cup Classic winner. But I don't think he's ever been as good as he was for that Whitney and Breeders' Cup Classic. He just got really, really good for that stretch of time there. And it was kind of a long stretch of time because he won the Whitney and then he didn't run back until the Breeders' Cup Classic. So he was off from August to November. And, he's come back and, he did win the Pegasus. He did win that allowance race, but, he won that Ghost Zapper too. But like you said, those were Gulfstream races. He does have an affinity for Gulfstream. He's been successful at Saratoga, but I think he would have to be at that level he was at when he won the Whitney and Breeders' Cup Classic to handle Fierceness in Sierra Leone. Is that possible? Yeah, it is. But I'm not sold. I'm not sold. I don't think he liked the track very much in the slop last time out. So I kind of give him a pass for that. But even giving him a pass for that race, in the Pegasus, this year, you look at his body of work. In the Pegasus, he beat Locked and Skippy Longstocking. Locked is now suspect, and I don't know how good Locked was at that point. Skippy, we kind of agreed, was a cut below here. In the race before that, he was a neck off Little Vic, who's got no business in this race and is not in this race. And Mufasa, handled him pretty easily, who's a nice, one turn kind of horse. The race before that, he beat nobody. So he really hasn't done enough this year to make me think he's at this level. So I'm going to pass on him.
Yeah, and if Safi surprises in this race, I think it's coming from his stablemate Skippy rather than this horse. That's just my feeling. I said to myself, if this horse wins, I lose.
I don't think Safi can win the race with either one, but we'll see. Contrary thinking. I guess I'm up with contrary thinking.
Well, it's your choice. You want to be up? Go ahead.
Am I not?
Didn't I lead with White Abario?
You did.
Yeah, so I'll start with contrary and I'll close out Fierceness and then you'll go to post time.
Okay.
All right, so contrary thinking, obviously, what raises an eyebrow, and I think David Aragona made him 50-1. I probably would make this horse 100-1 in this field in the morning line. Love Dylan, love Chad Brown, but obviously this is a horse who's got some tactical ability. I'm not saying there's any games being played, but to me, this horse is in this race to establish pace. He couldn't win. It would be an absolute collapse of the entire field for this horse to steal it. He's my bet to run last in this race. Waters is simply too deep. This doesn't happen in horse racing. A horse like this contending on any level to beat these monsters that are in this race.
Didn't mind that bird win the Kentucky Derby?
Yes, correct. It happens. But it happens in the Kentucky Derby for new 3-year-olds, and we know the jostling that goes around in that 20-horse field too.
Didn't our Kongs win the Breeders' Cup Classic?
With Jerry Bailey, $278. Remember?
Horse racing's a funny game. To me, he's the rabbit.
Okay. I think you said it more. You were more polite about it than I was.
I think Chad is going old school here. I think he's going old school, rabbit, short at pace, out there winging, and helps set it up for the big freight train coming down the lane and getting them all, Fierceness included.
Absolutely.
That's my thought.
Yeah, I smiled when I saw him entered in this race. Look at his body of work.
All sprints to last time, wire to wire, rabbit.
Yeah.
What's up, Doc?
All right, turning the page.
You're up. Fierce.
I'm going to lead with Fierceness, my boy. Okay. First things first, guys. I said something earlier in the year. This is before 2 monster races he ran before the Met Mile, which I'll get into, that I felt that Fierceness as a 4-year-old is arguably the best older horse in training. Then he fired back-to-back. Guys, I've always been fond of him, but if you look at everything this horse has accomplished since his failed run in the Kentucky Derby, and mind you, before the Derby, I knew he had a boatload of talent. And the races, he didn't get it done. He had strange things happen to him, whether it was the break, whether it was the trip. A horse named Hades finished ahead of him once before, which was ridiculous. But with that said, the last race, I know Fierceness where he was, and I bet him. In that Met Mile, I bet him big, and I bet him over just a touch. That was my exact. I bet a big exact, and I lost. Because Raging Torrent ran a huge race, the race of his life. Plus, Fierceness does not like it sloppy. All right? He was in position in a stretch. He couldn't get it done. Raging Torrent was the better horse that day. I don't think he's the better horse, but he was the better horse that day. It's going to be dry as a bone, 75 and sunny. Fierceness loves Saratoga. His A game, if he runs back to the way he ran in the Travers, the way he ran in the Jim Dandy, the way he ran in the Florida Derby, any of those races at Saratoga, any of those races on a 1.1 miles, with Johnny V up, he sits a perfect trip right behind the speed. He's not going to be used up with the Rabbit and Mama's Gold and the others. I trust Johnny V first run, and the only horse that's going to be able to pass him in the stretch is Sierra Leone. So the question here is, does he or does he not? A lot has to do with Pratt's decision, the pace, but you can't question Fierce's gritty gameness. And if he's confronted, he's going to keep going. So Fierceness is my top choice. I'm using 2 in my pick 5. I would not be surprised if Sierra caught him. Depends on other factors, but I love this exacta. The 2 best horses in this race showcase their wealth, showcase their talent in front of the large Whitney crowd.
Okay. Again, it's different styles. I don't think that I would ever really want to bet a pick 5 using Fierceness and Sierra Leone in this race. I would have to, go one way and double up. That's just me. And it's something that, like I always say, cash less tickets and win more money. I would just double up. I don't hedge. There's that old saying in horse racing, scared money doesn't win. I don't play the game that way. And it's just a style. It's an aggressive style. And I've lost many a days because of it. You know what I mean? But I'm Calabrese, and that's.
So it's only 2 deep, John. You're not afraid of getting beat by Fierceness?
I'm never afraid of getting beat. I bet my opinion, and I know Fierceness can beat me. I happen to think there's a couple of others in here that can beat me as well, and we'll recap that. But I don't think that you can beat the game long term betting like that. So I play to beat the game and make scores. I'm not going to make a score using the 4-5 shot and the 8-5 shot in the Whitney in a small field. You know what I mean? Where you got other stake races in that sequence where you got some short price horses that are likely to win.
And John, one thing I put in my full card handicap, I put a graph for those that are going to be inclined to take part in it. I talked about my way on a pick 5. I trust my work. I trust my handicapping. I always squeeze my pick 5. I don't play these big, giant cowboy tickets. At the Haskell day, I got screwed because I played a beautiful pick 5 ticket, but just a touch didn't get it done for me. And the horse that won was underneath, and I singled him because I didn't think he could lose. My point I'm making, I agree with you regarding the pick 5. But I don't think I'm really scared by saying, to me, logically, both Sierra Leone and Fierceness are good enough to win this race. So that's why I'm going to use both of them. But I know that Sierra Leone won't get to Fierceness unless everything is perfect. Could he? Yeah. But it depends on Pratt and the pace.
I get that. You know what I mean? I would just be decisive in a 2-horse race. That you think is a 2-horse race. I don't think it's a 2-horse race, but if you think it's a 2-horse race and you use one, you got a 50% chance of being right. If it's a 10-horse, field where you think 7 of them could win and you use 2, you don't have the same percentage. So to me, if you think only 2 can win, that's when you punch one hard.
I did that on Haskell Day and it didn't work out for me, but I hear you, man.
Knockout, Fierceness. Let me talk a little bit about.
Yes, I want to hear your thoughts on Fierceness.
Since he learned how to rate, he's gotten a lot better than I ever gave him credit for being. But there's a couple of things that you said I don't agree with. Number one, his first race in Saratoga, he won on an off track. So I don't think an off track is what got him beat. In the Met Mile, he got run off his heels by Raging Torrent. I thought that race was his. I thought it was a wide open race. I wasn't that surprised, but I did think he would run better and get a better trip than he wound up getting. I think Johnny's getting a little bit up there in years. I don't think he's the rider he was 5 or 10 or 15 years ago. I think Fierceness is going to be close to a hot contested pace. I think he's going to have to go after some of the speed because if he doesn't, they're going to get the jump on him, and I don't think he's going to want them to get the jump on him. So I think he's going to be moving when a couple of these other horses are moving. And I think that's going to leave him a little vulnerable that last 16th of a mile for the stretch run of Sierra Leone, who I believe is going to be able to outfinish him the way that the pace sets up and plays out, and the way that Johnny's riding and Pratt's riding, and the way that they're both coming into the race. I don't necessarily love Fierceness coming in off that loss. I'd rather see him coming in with a little bit more confidence. I'm still not sold that he's the gritty fighter that some people seem to think he is. He did learn to sit and rate and make a late run and get up. And he did win a heck of a battle in the Travers with Torpedo Anna, however. But I just don't think the pace really sets up, and the way I see the race flow really sets up for him to do his best on Saturday. And I think Sierra Leone is going to get him the way he got him in the Breeders' Cup Classic.
One counterpunch to what you said. I appreciated everything you shared. But in the Breeders' Cup Classic, if you watch that race over, Fierceness, we know Sierra Leone got it done, but he did all the hard work, and he was dead game in the stretch. He not only held second, he held second comfortably. And that race with Torpedo Anna, and she ran a huge race. He was a monster that day too, and Sierra Leone couldn't get to either one of them.
That's correct.
So, and I also blame the Wilson Shoot a bit. And I said, Raging Torrent, who's a nice horse, ran the race of his life. But the Wilson Shoot, I don't like it.
Me neither.
This race is in Fierceness wheelhouse.
I can't.
Dominate Saratoga, and you're right. He ran great as a juvenile in the mud. He did. But that day out of the Wilson Shoot with Raging Torrent from his outside coming at him, it just wasn't his day. I bet him. I loved him that day. But it doesn't change my feeling on how good he is. And he'll prove it Saturday.
Yeah, he very well may. I mean, obviously, he's going to be no surprise. I think he'll be close to even money.
How sick would it be if Sierra Leone and him go down to the wire and they're neck apart? Wouldn't that be crazy? Yeah, it fits into what we're both saying, and it could happen.
No question. It's post time. He's another closer in a race that I think is setting up for a closer. I can't really say he's a cut below, even though I want to, because he did manage to run second in the Breeders' Cup Mile. He comes home fast every time. If you look at his last fraction, post time comes home fast. I'm not sold on him here. I think he's more of a likely second or third pick up the pieces kind of horse here. But you got Sheldon Russell coming in, riding for his wife, Brittany Russell. She's got a lot of success in Maryland. This is an honest, hard-trying horse who's going to come with his run. Again, probably not going to be able to outfinish one or two in here, but he's the kind of horse that if I was betting superfectas or triples or anything like that, he would be in my second, third, and fourth slots. Absolutely. Just not the win slot.
You know what, John? You stole my thunder. I could say ditto with a few extra steady words, just a few, 30 seconds. So ditto to everything you said. I agree. He was third in the Whitney last year. He could do it again. It's a nice gray, runs his best late. In my opinion, I think probably a better opportunity at 1.25 miles, the way he's built, but he runs well at 1.8 miles. And you're right, the combo of trainer and jockey, husband and wife, yeah, it wouldn't shock me at all if he's third in this race.
It wouldn't shock me if he gets second either. What do you think of that?
I would be surprised with that. I would be surprised. And Highland Falls is the wild card of the race. I like him more than post time. But I wouldn't tell anybody if they're crazy using post time in their deeper gimmicks. No way, because he deserves the consideration.
No argument. So we're pretty much in sync, and I think he's the last one in here. He is. Heck of a card. Heck of a card. I'm sure you attacked that deep dive with vigor. You got the test right before this, a bunch of great races, a hell of a card on Whitney Day. Again, I think, a lot of
great ones
because of this, but it makes up for it on these days. That's for sure.
Yeah. Listen, guys, we know about the great ones, but even the maiden specials on the turf and the dirt, there's some very, very talented and anticipated offspring there, 2-year-olds from big barns, from small barns. And those races are very intriguing. So in those races, of course, I dig deeper into my bloodlines and workouts and success records of the barns. So, but it makes horse racing interesting to have that mix in it.
All right. I guess we are done with the Whitney.
Yeah, let us know in the comments what you agree with, who you like. We're curious because, you're getting a piece from two guys that are as seasoned as you're going to find anywhere in the industry. So let us know. And if you haven't subscribed yet, what the hell are you waiting for? You're here. Subscribe to the channel. We appreciate it. And we appreciate all referrals out because we're growing and we're growing rapidly. We just surpassed, John, 8,000 subscribers past the Wire TV.
Yeah, no, it's pretty respectable number in this industry, especially for us. I'm happy with it. I think it's pretty good. I'd like to get to 10,000. So if you can help us get to 10,000, we would really love that. But 8,000 is respectable enough.
Yeah.
All right, let's see if we can do some damage on Saturday. I like to bet these days. I feel like I have a better shot on these days. The pools are a little bit bigger. Everything's a little bit more on the level, even though nothing's ever on the level. But I think the playing field is a little bit more level on these days than some of the other days. So I like going after them and trying to find some major plays on these big days. And last year we did it. I think Arthur's Ride won the Whitney, who I thought was a contender, but that was a tricky race. I mean,
yeah, you had a few that you liked, and you said
I liked, but they did something. They harrowed the track after the race before that, and really made it a speed track that it was hard to close on. And I think that helped Arthur's Ride tremendously. So I think I got a little bit lucky there because he was one of the longer priced horses of the few that I like. And I think that what they did with the track between those two races helped significantly. So I'll take it. What are you going to do?
Let me tell you something. Tomorrow, I love a few horses. The Turf Mile, I don't want to give it away here. If you're interested, if you're engaged in my full card handicap, then you'll know. But I love a few. A few going to be, in my opinion, based on my morning line, may go off at 7, 10, 12 to 1. And there's a few standouts. And there's a European horse I really, really like, which I'm not going to share right now because we don't want the show to go too longer. So
I haven't done any of the other races yet. I just kind of glanced at them and said, wow, really, really nice card. But we did the Whitney. Those are our thoughts. Sometimes you land on a 15, 20 to 1 shot. Sometimes you don't. What are you going to do?
Of course. Absolutely. Every race is a new story, man.
The two likely winners here, neither one's going to be a big price. But remember this, because I think it's important and a lot of people lose sight of it. There is no value in a losing bet. None.
That is essentially important to know and remember, no doubt. And by the way, if those two monsters ran 1-2 and the exacta paid $14.80, just think of the profit on that for every $2. It's ridiculous.
I think Sierra Leone would have to beat him for the exacta to pay that. I don't think you can pay that if Fierceness wins, but
it'll be $9.80, correct? But still,
I think
stop sticking the eye.
No, and if you have it cold, if that's all you bet, you know what I mean? Like,
Yeah.
I like Fierceness. I would just bet one exact. That was it, you know, and single them.
I'm not talking about a $2 exacta to make enough to go to CVS or buy an order of Chinese food. I'm talking about a robust exacta. Confidence.
Exactly. All right. That's a wrap. We will be back with more Saratoga Saturday in time for next Saturday. Ciao, ciao.
Let's do it. Thanks for watching, everybody.
If you ain't smooth, you ain't never going to be a smooth operator.
Here comes journalism, here comes sovereignty, and they square off, head into the final furlong. Sovereignty wins the Derby!
You're watching Past the Wire TV. Hit that like button and subscribe to Past the Wire TV. Nobody does it better.
Nobody does it better.